They starred in billion-dollar movies, headlined hit television shows, earned fortunes before they were old enough to drive. For a moment, it looked like they had everything. But childhood fame comes with a price. Some lost their careers, some lost millions, some lost themselves, and one never got the chance to grow up at all. These are 10 child stars who lost everything. Top 10. Jake Lloyd. In 1999, Star Wars fans around the world were waiting for the next chapter of the franchise. Out of thousands of children who auditioned, 10-year-old Jake Lloyd was chosen to play young Anakin Skywalker in The Phantom Menace. The film earned more than $1 billion worldwide, instantly turning Jake into one of the most recognizable children on Earth. Overnight, millions of Star Wars fans knew his face, but not all of the attention was positive. Years later, Jake would describe the experience as more of a childhood nightmare than a dream come true. It should have been the beginning of a long Hollywood career. Instead, it became something very different. Jake later revealed that he was relentlessly bullied at school because of the role, and the attention that followed became overwhelming. Rather than embracing fame, he walked away from acting entirely. The boy chosen to become the future Darth Vader spent much of his life trying to escape the spotlight that made him famous. But while Jake stepped away from fame, the next star watched fame fall apart around her. Top 9. Amanda Bynes. At her peak, Amanda Bynes wasn't just one of Nickelodeon's stars. She was its biggest attraction. The network was so confident in her popularity that it built an entire sketch comedy series around her, The Amanda Show. Few child performers ever reached that level of influence. Before she was old enough to vote, Amanda had already become one of the biggest young stars on American television. Millions of young viewers grew up watching her. Hollywood believed she would become one of the next great comedy actresses. But behind the scenes, things were beginning to change. Amanda later struggled with serious personal and mental health challenges that played out in public. The same tabloids that once celebrated her success now documented her struggles in real time. Her acting career came to a sudden halt. The girl who once seemed destined for decades of success disappeared from the spotlight almost entirely. But Amanda's downfall happened after years of success. The next star began unraveling while still at the height of his fame. Top 8. Shia LaBeou. In the late 2000s, Hollywood believed it had found its next leading man. Shia LaBeou wasn't just starring in blockbuster movies. He was working alongside Steven Spielberg and carrying one of the biggest franchises on Earth. Then came Transformers. The franchise would go on to earn more than $4 billion worldwide, making Shia one of Hollywood's biggest young stars. At just 22 years old, he seemed to have the kind of career most actors spend a lifetime chasing. Studios saw him as the future. But over time, controversies, arrests, and public incidents began overshadowing his work. Headlines about his behavior slowly became bigger than headlines about his movies. The actor, once considered a future A-list superstar, gradually became known for everything except his acting career. Transition. But even Shia had years to build a career. The next child star barely had time to grow up. Top 7. Edward Furlong. Edward Furlong was only 13 when he became John Connor in Terminator 2. The film earned more than $500 million worldwide and made him an instant star. His performance was so impressive that he won a Saturn Award for Best Young Actor. Hollywood expected a huge future. Many believed he would become one of the defining actors of his generation, but fame arrived faster than he could handle. Addiction and legal troubles followed for years. Roles that once seemed guaranteed gradually disappeared. Despite multiple comeback attempts, he never fully recovered the momentum that once seemed unstoppable. The boy who helped save humanity on screen couldn't save his own Hollywood future. And while some stars struggled with fame, others reached extraordinary levels of success before everything started falling apart. Top 6. Lindsay Lohan. There was a time when Lindsay Lohan was one of the most valuable young actresses in Hollywood. By her early 20s, she was reportedly earning around $7 million per movie. For a brief period, she was one of the highest-paid young actresses anywhere in Hollywood. Films like Mean Girls turned her into a cultural phenomenon. She was everywhere. Movies, magazines, television. Producers wanted her. Studios wanted her. Audiences couldn't get enough of her. But relentless media attention and personal struggles slowly began taking their toll. Roles became harder to find. The momentum disappeared, and one of Hollywood's brightest young stars became one of its biggest cautionary tales. But Lindsay eventually found her way back into the spotlight. The next child star chose to leave it behind completely. Top 5 Macaulay Culkin. At the height of his fame, Macaulay Culkin wasn't just successful. He was arguably the most famous child actor in the world. Home Alone earned more than $470 million worldwide, and Culkin became a global icon. For millions of people, he wasn't just a child actor. He was the face of childhood itself. At one point, he was also one of the highest-paid child actors in Hollywood history. But fame came at a cost. Family conflicts and legal battles followed. Behind one of Hollywood's happiest on-screen faces, life was becoming increasingly complicated. Then, while still young, he stepped away from Hollywood. The face of an entire generation simply disappeared from the industry that made him famous. But losing fame is one thing. Losing the fortune that came with it is something else entirely. Top 4. Gary Coleman. Gary Coleman became one of television's biggest stars through different strokes. At his peak, he earned around $100,000 per episode, making him one of the highest-paid child actors on television. In the early 1980s, very few television stars, adult or child, were earning that kind of money. His catchphrase became part of American pop culture. He seemed to have everything. But behind the scenes, financial disputes drained much of his fortune. Years later, stories emerged of the former sitcom superstar struggling financially despite earning millions during his career. As he got older, opportunities vanished. The child star who once dominated television spent years battling financial hardship and personal struggles. But some careers don't slowly fade away. They collapse almost overnight. Top 3 Dana Plato. Dana Plato grew up in front of America. As one of the stars of different strokes, she appeared on a sitcom watched by tens of millions of viewers every week. Every week, millions of Americans watched her grow up on television. For years, she seemed destined for a long television career. Then the opportunities stopped coming. After leaving the show, her career quickly unraveled. The transition from child star to adult actress proved devastating. Financial problems and personal struggles followed. The fame that once defined her life disappeared. And the young actress millions had watched grow up became a tragic reminder of how quickly Hollywood can move on. Transition. But Dana Plato wasn't the only child star whose future slipped away. The next story became one of the most painful in Hollywood history. Top 2. Corey Haim. In the late 1980s, Corey Haim was one of the biggest teen idols in America. Films like The Lost Boys made him a household name. Millions of teenagers had his posters on their bedroom walls. Few young actors were more popular during the late 1980s. For a generation of fans, Corey Haim represented teenage stardom itself. For a brief moment, he seemed to have everything. But behind the scenes, addiction began taking control. The success that had arrived so quickly began slipping away just as fast. His career collapsed while he was still young. Attempts at comebacks never fully restored what he had lost. Corey Haim became one of Hollywood's clearest examples of what can happen when fame arrives too early. But no story on this list is more heartbreaking than the last one, because unlike everyone else you've seen so far, this child star never got the chance to grow up. Top 1 Judith Barcy. Judith Barcy was one of Hollywood's most promising young stars. Before the age of 10, she had already appeared in an estimated 70 to 100 commercials, starred in major productions, and voiced beloved characters like Ducky in The Land Before Time. She was reportedly earning around $100,000 a year, enough to help her family buy a home. Casting directors loved her. Producers loved her. Many believed she had an extraordinary future ahead of her. Her future looked limitless. But behind closed doors, Judith lived in fear. Friends and people close to the family later recalled warning signs that something was terribly wrong. Her father was reportedly abusive and increasingly unstable. Then in July 1988, tragedy struck. At just 10 years old, Judith and her mother were murdered by her father before he took his own life. The case shocked Hollywood and remains one of the darkest child star tragedies ever recorded. A little girl with everything ahead of her lost something far greater than fame. She lost the future itself. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any new videos. See you in the next one.